Good morning. We have so much news, so much to talk about. We've got huge breaking news and a lot of things that are happening in the background. So let's dive right into it. Fill your cups, man. I hope your coffee's as good as mine. It's hitting particularly good this morning. Let's do this. Good morning. Good Lord, we have a lot going on today. We have, of course, the big news of the day would be the Dali running into the Francis Scott Key Bridge, causing it to collapse. Let's talk about the latest on that. They're still engaged in recovery efforts. Folks, the water there is 41 degrees right now. That will cause hypothermia in a heartbeat. It's tough going for those guys, and hats off to those first responders and the work that they are doing. It is really, truly amazing to watch people like that just run to these situations and to put in the work that they do for these folks, because there's a lot of families that are hurting right now. Not a very good day for a lot of people up in Baltimore. The construction crew that was working on the bridge, two were recovered. The other 6 are still missing. With that many boats in the water, if they're still missing, you can bet the news is not good. But yeah, there was a construction crew working on the bridge when it collapsed. Let's get right into it. There's a video that was put out. I've been following the Baltimore Sun. They do fantastic work. Let's take a look at the video and talk about actually what happened. And kudos to the folks that are putting this information out so fast for us. Here you can see the Dali coming in from the left, just left the pier, heading out to sea. You see that it loses power. Its main engine's cut out. It loses all propulsion, all control, and goes adrift. You see the lights come on. You'll see a big plume of black smoke pop out. That is not the main engines coming back on. That's the backup generators being activated. They have no control at this point. They've called in a mayday, explaining that they are adrift and heading for the bridge. Again, kudos to the police and their response. It's just awe-inspiring to watch this. Let's run through it one more time. I'll play it again, because there's one other thing that I want you to denote and follow what's going on. First of all, the crew is not in charge of the boat right now. It's in harbor. It is being captained by a harbor pilot while this is going on. We have initial reports from the harbor pilot as to what they did. When they lost power there, the harbor pilot's first instructions were to the captain of the boat to get the main engines restarted. That was his first order. They could not do that. Emergency protocols on these boats are to immediately fire up the backup generator. That's where you'll see the big plume of smoke right as the lights come back on. Big plume of smoke billows out. That's the backup generators coming back on the boat. You have no propulsion control. You do have some navigation control when you're running on the backup generators, but you don't have really control of the ship, where it's going, where it's headed. They engage in, again, they immediately get on, the communications come back online, they call in a mayday and explain to folks what's going on. See, the lights have come back on, the plume of smoke from the backup generator. Now you see the boat starts to act a little weird and heading towards the pier. What's happened here is, in an emergency, an attempt to avert disaster, they dropped anchors. The harbor pilot ordered the anchors dropped to try to slow the boat, to try to get some semblance of any kind of control over this boat. And if you see the picture, if you go back and look at the pictures, they're just everywhere, all over the news. You'll see the anchor chains are out. You cannot see the anchors hanging on the side of the boat. They had dropped both anchors at that point. And again, it drifts into one of the support structures on the bridge. And collapses. A lot of really stupid things were said about this immediately. And I just want to clarify how something like this can. First of all, this is 928 foot long or 978 foot long container ship. It is massive. And folks, if you can, hit the thumbs up button. Let's get this live audience up as big as we can. Hit that thumbs up button. Hit the subscribe button. Man, I hope your coffee's as good as mine. This boat is massive. These bridges, it is critically important for these bridges that they be in a perfect line. You know, one of the largest suspension bridges in the world, the Takashi Narrow Bridges, was built in Japan. The variance for which those the stanchions that hold that bridge up could have right to left was your thumb width. That's how critical it is that these bridges that those particular support points not move. And it wasn't that the support was destroyed. It was that it moved the bridge. And when the bridges really don't have a lot of lateral strength that way, the way they're engineered and function, that's what caused this disaster. Unfortunately, not everybody has responded to this professionally and at the level at which we would hope. Let's start out with a statement from President Biden. One second. All right. Here we go. Forgive the delay. I apologize. I lost my tab.
Here's what's happening now. The search and rescue operation is our top priority. Ship traffic in the Port of Baltimore has been suspended until further notice, and we'll need to clear that channel before the ship traffic can resume. The Army Corps of Engineers is on the spot and is going to help lead this effort to clear the channel. The Port of Baltimore is one of the nation's largest shipping hubs, and I've been there a number of times as a senator and as a vice president. It handles a record amount of cargo last year. It's also the top port in America for both imports and exports of automobiles and light trucks. Around 850,000 vehicles go through that port every single year, and we're going to get it up and running again as soon as possible. 15,000 jobs depend on that port, and we're going to do everything we can to protect those jobs and help those workers. The bridge is also critical for travel, not just for Baltimore, but for the Northeast Corridor. Over 30,000 vehicles cross the Francis Scott Key Bridge on a daily basis. It's virtually, it's one of the most important elements for the economy in the Northeast and the quality of life. My transportation secretary is there now. As I told Governor Moore, I've directed my team to move heaven and earth to reopen the port and rebuild the bridge as soon as humanly possible. And we're going to work hand in hand with the support of Maryland to support Maryland whatever they ask for. We're going to work with our partners in Congress to make sure the state gets the support it needs. It's my intention that the federal government will pay for the entire cost of reconstructing that bridge, and I expect the Congress to support my effort. This is going to take some time. The people of Baltimore can count on us, though, to stick with them at every step of the way until the port is reopened and the bridge is rebuilt. You know, we're not leaving until this job gets done. Not leaving until then. So I just want to say God bless everybody who got everyone harmed this morning and their families. And may God bless the first responders, many of whom risking their lives.
So that was the first statement from President Biden. I want you to contrast that to what we're seeing out of Republicans. You know, you've got the mayor of Baltimore, you've got the governor of Maryland, you've got Joe Biden talking about, you know, we've had a crisis, we've had an emergency, we're going to pull together, we're going to do this, we're going to make this happen. That is not what we're getting out of Republicans, unfortunately. You've got Marjorie Taylor Greene that is immediately coming out and saying, well, we have to have an investigation. Is this an intentional attack or an accident? They keep just pushing this nonsense about, was it a terrorist attack? That is like they almost hoped it was a terrorist attack of some sort. Folks, these accidents with these ships happen. You know, that's why they put redundant systems on these ships. That's why we have regulations for these ships. But these accidents still do happen. This is the real world. This same ship backed into a pier in Europe a few years back. Damaged the pier. Did a ton of damage. Shut the pier down. It was turning in the channel, and they just didn't have the clearance. If you've ever taken a cruise or actually been on one of these boats, you know they're really freaking big, and it's amazing the tight spaces in which they operate these boats. These accidents happen. Yeah, the accident in Antwerp. Love you folks. Always on top of what's going on. Lisa McBaron. Yeah, they were turning the ship around. They didn't have enough clearance, and the accident of the ship rammed into the pier. Same boat. It happens. It happens. And when it happens, you could tell what's inside people, where they go. Great comment there, 15 Freak. You know, Fred, I appreciate you. Democrats, Joe Biden, the mayor, everybody immediately. Let's talk about the families. Let's talk about the people. Let's talk about, making, we've got to try to find the people if we can. We've got to try to save anybody we can. Republicans immediately. You had Mike Flynn before the sun had come up on social media talking about this was a black swan event. This was a black swan. If you don't know a black swan event, like COVID was a black swan event. It's something that you couldn't predict. You don't see it coming, but it's a massive disaster and it's going to change your life forever. But they've fallen in love with that statement, a black swan event, because people have a misconception of what it means, and they imply that it means a disaster that we Democrats aren't going to be able to handle, is the way they constantly put it. Like it's black swan events or terrorist attacks, or it's always a negative connotation to it. But the sun hadn't even come up. Folks, there were so many people doing amazing things. There was a first responder that called in, that was on the shore, that was watching this happen. He calls in and says, "Hey, we've got a ship that's going to hit the bridge. I can see it. It's drifting into the bridge. It's going to hit the bridge. Okay, it has hit the bridge. Send everything. The bridge isn't here anymore. Send everything." People doing amazing things. And then you get Marjorie Taylor Greene. Was this an attack? No, it wasn't an attack. It wasn't an attack. And then, of course, they've got to try to figure out some way to score political points. So where does Fox go? It's the border. This is Maria Bartiromo on Fox.
Let me also get your take on what's going on in terms of world affairs. The White House has issued a statement on this, saying that there's no indication of a nefarious intent in the collapse of the Francis Scott Key Bridge. The ship involved in the collapse of the bridge is 948 feet long, called the Dali, a Singaporean flagged container. But of course, you've been talking a lot about the potential for wrongdoing or potential for foul play, given the wide open border. That is why you have been so adamant. Why has the Republicans had such a hard time securing this border? The president says he's not going to take his executive action. You know that.
So yeah, it was the border. Folks, about the whole it's a terrorist attack thing, the harbor pilot, the guy that drives ships every day, several a day, in and out of this harbor, that's, if you don't know anything about shipping, it's no big deal. I understand, why would you know this? These ship crews don't drive in and out of the harbor. They don't. They want somebody that specifically knows this harbor, its traffic, its depths, where you can and cannot take a boat. They have what are known as harbor pilots. They board the ship while it's at sea, or they board the ship at the dock, and they're the ones that drive the ships out. They're the captain of the boat while it's coming into port and while it's leaving port. This harbor pilot is a professional that has done this over and over and over and over and over and over again. And there's no indication that he did anything wrong. They had a mechanical failure. He immediately, as soon as they could restore power, called in a mayday. Saved lives. Saved a lot of lives. They were able to stop a lot of that traffic going on that bridge. No, this isn't a terrorist attack. But it gets worse. It just gets worse. Immediately. We haven't even recovered bodies yet. There are still people in the water. And you've got Nancy Mace here on Newsmax.
Yeah, you'll hear that. I'm sure you'll hear the Democrats have a press release and conference somewhere today or tomorrow about the need for $1 trillion infrastructure program after all the other ones. And that's my question to you. It seems like we do have these infrastructure bills, lots of money in it. I've been under bridges. They're horrible to look at. You look and you see rust. If you drive over bridges, you see things you are like, am I going to make it over this? The bridges are definitely old. The roads are old.
Just in saying that, this Newsmax right-wing jerk here, Republicans vote against every infrastructure bill. The majority of Republicans vote against every infrastructure bill. Then they turn around when those projects hit, they put in earmarks in the bills, they vote against the bills, and then they go home and tell their people, look what we did. Look what we did. You didn't do shit. We did it. We Democrats did it.
But why after all these bills, after all the money, do we still have really old bridges and really old roads?
Because we're not spending it on roads and bridges.
Right.
Look at the $1.2 trillion infrastructure bill that was done a couple of years.
Really ask that question. I know I'm interrupting the video, and I apologize for that, but really, that's where they're going with this. You haven't fixed everything all over the country, overcome our resistance, our objections, and you haven't fixed everything. What is wrong with you? Why haven't you fixed everything?
Well, years ago that the left hails as this massive success, but it was mostly Green New Deal. Actually, in that bill, 110 billion went to surface transportation, which is roads and bridges, and of that 110 billion, 70 billion went to public.
I can't watch this. I'm sorry. I did. Folks, there are still people in the water. There's still people in the water that haven't been recovered yet. And she's already on Newsmax trying to make political hay and why this is the Democrats' fault and why we're not doing it well enough and why we haven't fixed everything. And meanwhile, you've got, we'll start with the actual Republicans themselves. This is Candace Taylor. She's a candidate for the governor of Georgia. And the cops conveniently stopped cars just moments before the ship slammed into it. And y'all are on here saying this is conspiracy stuff? And the bridge is named after the author of the national anthem? Come on now. Folks, again, I hate to be repetitive, but there are people still in the water. There are still divers searching for people, and she's out there spreading conspiracy theories. And she wants to be governor of Georgia. And then you've got, all the talking heads, the usual talking heads. You got Laura Logan here. Thank you for the support, Katie. I really appreciate you. Laura Logan here. Welcome to the world of cyber terrorism. The Baltimore bridge collapse was a 911 style attack, but they won't admit it. Blah, 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 blah. We hadn't even gotten the reports from the harbor pilot as to what happened. And she'd already declared that it was a 911 9/11 terrorist attack. I mean, compare this. Thank you, William Ashby, which is wish all the best from Canada. I thank you for being here. Thank you for being here. Love our international audience. By the way, if you don't mind, a lot of new folks here that don't know just how many folks we have internationally in this audience. Let folks know where you're from if you're not from within the States, because I really appreciate your opinions and I'm glad you're here. But just compare that. Thanks for the support, Lucky Star. Just compare that. You've got Joe Biden, you've got the mayor of Baltimore, you've got the governor of Maryland, all working on the first response, all trying to figure out what happens. And you've already got the Republicans. It's a terrorist attack. It's a black swan event. It's Biden's fault. They didn't fix all the infrastructure. There was nothing wrong with that bridge. No one has said that this collapse was because that bridge had faulty infrastructure. That was actually a pretty damn good bridge. It was built in 76. It was built to last 100 years. A lot of life left in that bridge. There was a crew working on that bridge, doing maintenance on that bridge. There were immigrants, by the way. That construction company that has that contract to do that hires immigrants. They went and talked to some of the people that work on that construction crew. Not a word of English. Doesn't speak a word of English. Immigrants doing repairs on our bridges. in the middle of the night in freezing, over freezing water. But the nutballs, it's not just them. Let's just get it out there. Let's just get it out there. Of course, Alex Jones, it looks like looks deliberate to me. Cyber attack, probably World War III, has already started. Quoting Andrew Tate, the sex trafficker. This ship was cyber attacked. Lights go off and it deliberately steers towards the bridge supports. No, none of that happened. Just insanity. Just insanity. Just insane. But the worst of it isn't really it's a terrorist attack thing. The worst of it, and it's just sickening, just makes me sick. I mean, literally makes me feel ill talking about this. Chassie, I appreciate your support. I didn't get to read your comment. I apologize. It popped down too quick, but I want you to see what they're saying about the mayor of Baltimore. They're also saying it about the governor of Maryland. This is Baltimore's DEI mayor commenting on the collapse Francis Scott Key Bridge. It's going to get so much worse. Prepare accordingly. This is a very popular right-wing account. Got over 250,000 followers. They actually had the community note it. But I want to talk about this for a second. It literally makes me nauseous. These people, and it's all over social media. DEI, DEI is diversity, equity, and inclusion. It's a concept that a ton of corporations, schools, just about every organization on the planet is engaged in, because what we learned was that we weren't getting the best and the brightest, because we weren't really going out and offering opportunities to every group. So we weren't getting the best and the brightest. We were just getting those that knew to apply. So diversity, equity, and inclusion. Silverthorn Goodtree says, cops stopped cars because the crew got a mayday out 90 seconds before impact. Kudos to the police. That's the harbor pilot right there, by the way. And they're saying, oh, he's a DEI hire. They don't know anything about the harbor pilot. They don't know who he is, but they're calling him a DEI hire, and he ran the boat into the bridge, and therefore, let's just face it. DEI is the new N-word. It is. It's the new N-word. They said it about airline pilots. There was a big dust up on social media because they said you had a right-wing idiot says, if I get on an airplane and the pilot's black, I'm very uncomfortable. I don't know if I'm going to fly on that plane. Talking about DEI. They think that's a winner for them. And Republicans are just being open about this racism. Folks, DEI is finding the best and the brightest in every group. That's what it is. That's what it is. But to mediocre, racist white people, it's racism. All they see is racism. DEI is not quotas. DEI isn't, there's no incentive program. What DEI is just making sure that when you put a job out there, that you let everybody know. Everybody. Because you want the smartest person, the most capable person in that job. You don't care what their background is. And we know historically that jobs weren't always advertised to everybody. You had good people that didn't even know they could get into some programs. You had good people, intelligent people that would benefit people, that would benefit us. And man, it's everywhere. It's just disgusting. Literally, I tell you, doing this job can just bring you down. Looking at the out and out racist hate it just gives them the giggles to say things like this. Oh, it's DEI. It's DEI. Caused this accident. That is out and out saying it's black people. It's brown people that did this. They're substandard to us whites. It's just overt racism. And it's disgusting. And the same people that are saying this say stupid shit like, oh, we got to get our country back. It's them Democrats that are just taking our country away. Let me just share this with you. Just a few people, okay? Everybody knows this guy. This is Neil deGrasse Tyson. He's an astrophysicist, widely considered one of the smartest men to have ever lived, and he's American. This is Michio Kaku. Michio Kaku. He's a physicist. Again, born in San Jose, American. Widely considered one of the smartest men to have ever lived. You know, I would invite you, go watch the movie Hidden Figures about the NASA calculators. It was black women that sent us to the moon, but you did hear about that. You just didn't hear about that. You know, the Tuskegee Airmen. Stuff like this just pisses me off so badly. The Tuskegee Airmen were the most successful group. They flew bomber escorts. They lost fewer bombers than any other group in World War II. They were black. They segregated them out instead of letting just everybody be pilots. DEI, just look for the best pilots. They segregated them out, and these black pilots were the most successful bomber escorts in World War II. But you didn't hear about that. You didn't hear about it at all. They hid. Mediocre, racist bigots hid their accomplishments, and in fact tried to actually smear them to actually change what their accomplishments were. They took anything that happened that was negative and massively amplified it, and that's all you ever heard about in relation to the Tuskegee Airmen. That really happened. Bigoted, racist white men. What did they do there? They stole from me when they did that as an American. You know why? Because these people, they're us. They're us. And you took the best of us away. Because of your fear, your hate. And that's what they're trying to do right now. That's what this DEI stuff is. It is just the new N-word. It is new racism. Try to find anything bad that happens and say, brown people. See, if you just let us white people run everything, that's exactly the message with that. Mary Mitchell says, it will be worse when the final report comes out. I don't know exactly what you mean by that. It'll be worse when the final report comes out. I don't know. You have to clarify that. Oh, man, I tell you, I hope your coffee's as good as mine. I really hope your coffee's as good as mine. But I want to share one more story with you. This DEI stuff just really, DEI is the new racism. It is. It really is. It is the latest attack by racists to use something that's a good thing, a simple thing. Find the best people from anywhere in our country This is Roy Benavidez. I want to tell you a story. Roy Benavidez. He was born in South Texas. He's a Texas boy. A lot of people, most people don't even know who Roy Benavidez is. You notice hanging around his neck here, that's the Medal of Honor. So you know he did something good. On the left is a younger version of himself. Roy, his family, they're Mexican, of course. Benavidez, he's Mexican. The border crossed them. When Texas became a state, the border crossed his people. They're Mexican. They lived in the Texas region. If you draw a line from San Antonio, Texas to Houston, Texas, straight line, go a little bit south, you run into a town called Cuero. And around Cuero, there's a little town named El Centro and a little town named Benavidez. It's named Benavidez because Roy Benavidez's family established that town here in Texas. But don't want to give you any misconception. Roy Benavidez didn't come from money or a powerful group or anything like that. His ancestors founded the town of Benavidez. He was from El Centro. He's an orphan. He was orphaned. Both his parents, his father died of tuberculosis when he was 2. His mother died of tuberculosis when he was 6. He ended up going to live with his paternal grandfather in Cuero. And he worked, didn't finish high school, ended up joining the National Guard. Back when you could do that, back in the day, during Korea, he joined the National Guard and then went active in the Army. Joined Airborne, earned his way into Special Forces, became a Green Beret. Ended up getting deployed to Vietnam. In his first tour of Vietnam, he stepped on a landmine. And you'd think, man, that was the end of his story right there. He stepped on a landmine. He'd lost his ability to use his legs. He was in the hospital. Doctor said, okay, you're out of the Army. You can't walk. We're gonna kick you out of the Army. And he said, no, you're not. And he, against doctor's orders, every night would crawl out of his bed, crawl across the floor on his elbows to get to the wall and continue his physical therapy, first learning to sit up. Then he got himself to where he could stand. Took about 6 months. He was in the hospital. Got himself to where he could stand, and finally got himself to where he could walk again. And the day that they came in to give him his paperwork that you're out, he got out of his bed and stood at attention. That would be a great story if that was his story. But that's not even the beginning. There's a reason they haven't made a movie about Roy Benavidez, because they couldn't sell it. No one would believe it. Thanks for the support, Matthew Preble. So he fights getting kicked out of the Army. They transfer him to Bragg. He can barely walk when he gets to Bragg. I mean, he can walk, but he can barely walk. 6 months later, he's running 10 miles with a rucksack. That's how much determination he had. Yeah, believe me, that is not the end of the story. He's a master. He's master certified parachutist. He's a Green Beret. He gets deployed to Vietnam. And when he's in Vietnam, he makes a friend. He went through jump school with a guy by the name of Leroy Wright. They both deployed to Vietnam. They end up in the same base. This is the kind of territory we're talking about. This is where he was stationed. This is the kind of territory we're talking about. Not in Vietnam. So he's coming back from mass about this time of year. And hears over the radio that there's a group of a unit, special forces unit. It's actually 3 special forces operators with 8 of the local tribesmen are surrounded, 12 men surrounded by a battalion of NVA. Folks, there's 1,000 men in a battalion. It's 1,000 to 12. Then he finds out that his friend Leroy Wright is one of the operators. He grabs a medical bag, runs out to the hospital to the helicopter, because what he's heard is that they're going to extract these guys and there's injured. He wants to help. He volunteers. He grabs a medical bag, jumps on a chopper. They get there, can't land the chopper. 15th Fleet says, thank you for keeping our lights on, Mr. Paul. Hey, no, I appreciate you, man. I really do. I appreciate you. So here's Roy Benavidez. He's in a helicopter flying out to an engagement where you have a unit surrounded by a battalion. Can't land the chopper. They can't extract him. He jumps out of the chopper because they can't land. They're under so much fire. Lands 75 meters from the unit. Runs through an open clearing for 75 meters. He's shot in the leg, and a grenade goes off, gets hit in the face and the head with shrapnel. Makes it to the unit. Takes command of the unit, establishes a defensive perimeter, calls in airstrikes, calls in artillery. Stabilizes the wounded. Here's where it gets really bad. I mean, this is crazy so far, right? I mean, this is crazy. This guy is he is the mayor of Bad Motherfuckerville already, right? Oh no, this is where it gets bad. Helicopter comes in for an evac. They're there for 6 hours, folks. This happens over 6 hours. They're in a constant firefight with the North Vietnamese army. North Vietnamese can't find them. They're staying low, man. These tribesmen and these special operators know what the hell they're doing. Helicopters can't find them either. So they have to pop smoke. They have to pop a smoke grenade. That tells the NVA where they are, and all hell breaks loose. They land. Roy Benavidez carries. Actually, it's funny you should say that. Suburban housewife. He was the inspiration for the story of Rambo. He was. Saves 8 people, gets 8 wounded people onto the helicopter, and they take off. The second helicopter comes in. His commanding officer, the position they're in was a fallback position. The commanding officer of that unit, not his commanding, I misspoke there, not his commanding officer. The commanding officer had been killed in the initial engagement, was in another position. He laid down covering fire running across the field so that helicopter could move to the forward position. They've loaded more injured. He gets shot again in the abdomen, in the stomach. And that one's it is serious. He's holding his intestines in. The pilot of the helicopter is killed. The helicopter crashes. He pulls the wounded. This is insane. Nobody believes this. But it's documented fact. He pulls the wounded off the helicopter, reestablishes a defensive perimeter. He's taking arms from the NVA that he's killing, reestablishes a defensive perimeter there, calls in more airstrikes, more artillery, runs across, finishes his mission, reaches the commanding officer because he has classified information on him that they cannot leave. Takes that information, is running back to the helicopter when he gets clubbed by an NVA soldier. Goes down and the NVA soldier runs him through with a bayonet. His jaw's broken now. And he's been run through with the bayonet. He pulls the rifle and the bayonet out, takes his own knife, and engages in a knife fight with an NVA soldier in hand-to-hand combat after being shot in the abdomen, after being shot in the leg, a jaw broken, and he kills the NVA soldier. He takes that soldier's weapon, runs back to the helicopter where two more NVA soldiers are attacking from behind where the door gunner cannot provide cover from another helicopter that has just come in to extract them. He kills two more NVA soldiers there. Gets shot in the leg again. Another grenade goes off. Gets all the men loaded on the chopper. And he lets them pull him onto the chopper. When they get back to the hospital, they think he's dead. His heartbeat is so weak. They think he's dead. They put him in a body bag. They're zipping his body bag up. And he doesn't have the strength. He can't talk. His jaw is broken. He can't move. But he knows if that body bag closes, he's a dead man. And he does the only thing he can. And he spits a mouthful of blood on the doctor. Spits it in his face, the doctor reports. And the doctor realizes he's got a live patient. Sorry, I got a couple trolls to remove. So yeah, he doesn't get the Medal of Honor at that point. They gave him a Distinguished Service Cross. His commanding officer didn't put him in for the Medal of Honor because, according to his commanding officer, they thought he was going to die. He had 37 shrapnel, stab, and bullet wounds, and a broken jaw. Let me say that again. 37 shrapnel, stab, and bullet wounds. They didn't put him in for a congressional medal, or pardon me, a Medal of Honor because they thought he was going to die. So they gave him a Distinguished Service Cross, which they upgraded when he did not die. They upgraded to a Medal of Honor. And there's actually more to that story because he was spent so long in physical therapy. And frankly, they didn't believe the reports until they got so many people saying, yeah, this shit really happened. But that's why he's wearing, in this picture, he's wearing the Congressional Medal of Honor around his neck. That's Roy Benavidez, folks. And the reason I'm telling you this story, is these DEI comments that they're making me sick. To you trolls in here that are running your mouths, and to you racist bastards, you sorry sons of bitches that are trying to steal this from me because you're so mediocre and you can't handle the fact that somebody that is a person of color or not white does amazing freaking things. So you try to cover it up. You try to hide it. It was never your country. Every time I hear we're losing our country, it was never your country. It's our country. And it's a country that has men like Roy Benavidez in it. And you're not taking that from us. We're not doing that anymore. We're not. Yes, we're going to engage in diversity, equity, and inclusion because diversity, equity, and inclusion is simply finding the best people for the damn job. And we're not going to play this game of mediocre white guys get their fifis hurt. It's not going to it's not going to happen, folks. Not anymore. Not anymore. We're Americans. Neil deGrasse Tyson, I get to have pride in him. Michio Kaku, I get to have pride in him. The exploits of the Tuskegee Airmen, I get to have pride in them. Roy Benavidez, I get to have pride in him. The mayor of bad motherfuckerville. And you can't take that from me. Because you're weak. Because you're afraid. And apparently somebody, just a reminder, folks, I don't message people. My email is available on my website. You will not get contact from me. I may respond to something you send me, but I will never reach out to you. There are some people out there using my face and my name that are trying to scam people, that are trying to sell people shit, you will never get messaged from me. Ever. But yeah, back on topic. That's where I'm at, folks. No more. Every time you hear one of these jackasses talk about DEI hire and woke and all this, no, you don't get to take it from me. You don't get to take it from me anymore. We're not going to hide the achievements of great people so that, for your fifis, for your feels. And I just want to be clear. It was never your fucking country. It was always ours. And it always will be. ET says most of the honorees of the CMA, that's the Congressional Medal of Honor, you meant CMH, I'm sure, usually receive it posthumously. He should be your governor. He's passed. He's passed now. He passed around the turn of the century. But I'd vote for him. I'd vote for him in a heartbeat. And you know what Roy Benavidez did? Just the last thing I want to say about Roy Benavidez. You know what he did? This is the kind of guy he is. He went back, a guy that didn't graduate from high school, to join the military. He went back and he lectured to any kid that would listen. Education is key. The country needs you to be as smart as you can be. Finish high school. Go to college. That's what he spent his life doing. Peter Campbell says, everyone that served contributed to the victory in World War II. The 442 Infantry Regiment was the most decorated unit in the ETO. They were Japanese Americans. Yes. Thanks for their service and all that served. Exactly. You cannot take that from us. They were us. Their bravery was us. Your hate does not get you to be able to isolate those from us. They're us. They're we. And just watching this unfold with this ship and just the constant, this is DEI. This is what DEI gets you, you racist piece of shit. You're so afraid, so nasty. And we're done with you. We are done with you. We're done with your stupidity. We got more to talk about. I really, and studying what was going on and anything that happened, we'll try to do a roundtable at the end about any other questions you have about the accident. But that just really set me off, watching the responses from these Republicans. The people haven't even been pulled out of the water, and they're already being racist, nasty, horrible, shitty human beings trying to get some political advantage off of this. And I'm done. I'm done with them. I'm done with them all. Meanwhile, they're trying to make this guy my president again.
I'm proud to be partnering with my very good friend, Lee Greenwood. Who doesn't love his song, God Bless the USA, in connection with promoting the God Bless the USA Bible. This Bible is the King James Version and also includes our founding father documents. Yes, the Constitution, which I'm fighting for every single day, very hard to keep Americans protected. Also, the Bill of Rights, the Declaration.
So yeah, he's hawking Bibles now. The guy that the Bible warns you about is selling Bibles. Let me tell you, this is a guy that just got gagged. Juan Merchan, the judge up in New York, just gagged him with one of the harshest gag orders that has been handed down to Trump, period, because Trump attacked his daughter. The gag order is really clear. Judge Merchan is not having any of this. He just gagged Trump and told him, you do not talk about anybody that works in this courthouse, their families, anybody. Don't test me. We're going straight to penalties. He also told Trump's lawyers, who filed another frivolous motion trying to delay this, he said, file one more and I'm going after you criminally. You will respect this court. Juan Merchan is having none of it. None of it. And I'm here for it. Somebody finally holding this guy to account. You know, the right wingers are all elated because, oh, Trump's a billionaire. He just made $6 billion selling Truth Social. Look, we told you it was successful. No, he didn't. Let's clear that up. Let's get that off the table. For the folks that haven't been following what's been going on with Truth Social is a failing social media platform. It is. It's failing. It's never turned a profit. William G. Atheist #1 says, FYI to my American friends in Canada, the morning after pill is available, is an over-the-counter drug. We're going to talk about the Supreme Court also. We're going to talk about mifepristone, the Supreme Court. I want to clear this up with Trump, though. No, Trump did not become an overnight billionaire. He did not. Let me Truth Social has been a failing social media platform. It has never turned a profit. Its revenues last year were right at around $4 million, and it didn't cover all the bills. Folks, in this deal where they did the stock swaps with Digital World Acquisition Corp, the number of outstanding stock just climbed to 188 million shares. 188 million shares on a company with $4 million in revenue and no profit. Folks, the short sellers are going to decimate this stock. This is the kind of stock that short sellers dream of. There is no metric in which there are Trump fans. There are Trump fans that will buy things like the NFTs that he was hawking Immediately, the value of them plummeted. Then you had 3 Trump-loving fans that went out there and bought millions of these NFTs, shot the price up of these NFTs because they were buying all that they could get just so that Trump could say he was successful. And then the value plummeted again because there's no metric in which a Trump fan can hold the value of 188 million shares of stock up. But you do have, there are billionaires out there that are willing to piss away money just to try to give a temporary boost to this guy. It's that insane. It's that insane. But no, here's the deal with Trump's stock. In the terms of the deal, he can't borrow against it and he can't sell it for 6 months. Now, that doesn't mean he's tied for 6 months, because what they're going to do, everybody pretty much will agree, is what he's going to try to do is he's going to replace the board of the company because he's now the main shareholder. He can do this. He's going to try to replace the board with people that are Trump sycophants that allow him to do whatever he wants, and he's going to sell stock as fast as he can before the value plummets. It's going to cause the stock to plummet. He's going to sell out as fast as he can to try to garner as much cash as he possibly can. He's going to borrow against it, try to use it for collateral, everything he can do to try to leech money out of there. But he can't do it overnight. And there will be lawsuits because people put their money into this investment based on the understanding that he will not borrow against the stock or sell his stock for 6 months. If he's forced to hold his stock for 6 months, it's going to be worthless. It's going to be a freaking penny stock before they're done. I am not a financial advisor, but it doesn't take a genius to look and say a company that's never made money, its maximum revenue has been $4 million, and there's 188 million shares out there. There's no way that maths. It just doesn't. It just doesn't. So yeah, everybody that's out there wringing their hands, oh, Trump's got money now. He's going to get out of these cases. No, it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. I was reading a guy yesterday that was talking about best case scenario. If Trump does what we were just talking about replacing the board and selling out as fast as maybe $200 million he nets out of this, which won't cover his judgments, because he owes over $500 million at this point. And by the way, there is also a misconception that the reduction in his bond was somehow a reduction in his judgments. They are not. And he's going to lose his appeal. ET says, I wouldn't put it past Trump to have someone doing some short selling for him on the side. Yeah, that doesn't really work that way. Doesn't really work that way because the owner of the stock really doesn't benefit from a short sale. Anyways, that's a whole nother story. Yeah, so Trump's hawking Bibles. A guy that just turned into a guy that's got $6 billion worth of equities doesn't hawk Bibles. He knows he's broke. He knows he's broke. But more's been going on. I'm telling you, it's just crazy the number of things that have happened in the news. Some of them are just making me laugh. Yeah, y'all follow Rick Wilson on social media. He's a Republican turned independent. He's a never Trumper. He's a never Trumper. He coined a phrase that's just stuck. Everything Trump touches dies. We have some news out of Minnesota for the Everything Trump Touches Dies Mike Lindell edition. Judge just evicted Mike Lindell out of his warehouse, his company warehouse. He's $200,000 behind on his rent. Nice warehouse, huh? Pretty sweet place. Not a lot of trucks doing any shipping right there, but hey. Yeah, he is literally out on his ass today. So that happened. Yeah, everybody that has ever, they fall into two categories. People that have been around Trump fall into two categories. They're either people that have gone on that will not endorse Trump, that will tell you by any means, never let this man have any power. I've worked with him. You got guys like Rex Tillerson, just people that worked in his administration are like, do not work with him. And then you have the real sycophants like Rudy Giuliani and the My Pillow guy, and they're all frickin' broke, bankrupt. Zeb says it's a redacted Bible. Certain passages have been omitted, such as Luke 10:25 through 37, the parable of the Good Samaritan. I wouldn't doubt it. I wouldn't doubt it. I wouldn't buy an apple from the son of a bitch, much less a Bible. But yeah, there's just been all kinds of crazy news breaking. Carrie Fake has rolled over. She was being sued for defamation in Arizona, and they just put a filing out there to default. They just rolled over. Yeah, we did it. We did it. We defamed the guy. Guy by the name of Stephen Richer. He was an election official in Maricopa County. She made up a bunch of stuff and selling her election theft lie. Accused Stephen Richer of a bunch of nefarious activity. I appreciate the support, Gwen. I really do. A bunch of nefarious activity, that he created ballots that were intended to make Trump lose, and just one thing after another, all these conspiracy theories and lies about the 2020 election. And Stephen Richer sued her. I'm glad to hear it. He stood up for himself and he sued her. Well, yesterday they threw in the towel, and it's going to damages. It's going to the damages phase at this point. Glad to hear it. Glad to hear it. So Carrie Lake's going to be broke. We had Ken Paxton get let off the hook. That was just really disgusting. Just really disgusting. What that was all about was Ken Paxton, when he became Attorney General, right when he became Attorney General, there was a company called Severgy that he had a relationship with when he used to be in the Texas House before he became Attorney General. And he was running around telling everybody to buy stock in Severgy. Well, he didn't tell anybody that Severgy was paying him. He was pimping stock, which is a violation. I cannot sit on here and say, hey, you know what? Go out and buy a bunch of XYZ stock. I can't do that. That's a violation of the law. You have to be licensed. You have to disclose your relationships with the company. You have to, so they filed charges against him, rightfully so. The SEC went after him. The Collin County DA ended up being the guy to bring the charges, but that was meant to be a defense. The Collin County DA is a guy by the name of Greg Willis. He's a business partner. He was a business partner of Ken Paxton. He was a longtime friend of Ken Paxton. He brought the case to dirt the case in. The judge, a guy by the name of Scott Becker, said, no, we're going to have a special counsel. But Scott Becker's a lifelong Republican also. So what did they do? They went out and they found this guy to be the special counsel, Brian Weiss. He's the guy on the right here. And a picture's worth 1,000 words. Just let that soak in. That's the prosecutor they hired. So naturally, everybody, the guy on the left's Tom Delay, by the way. He represented Tom DeLay's lifelong Republican. He is connected within the Republican establishment. That's the prosecutor, Brian Weiss. So he cut Ken Paxton a sweetheart deal. He gave him he gave him deferred adjudication is what he did. When you get a ticket, as long as you don't have a ton of tickets, if you get one ticket, you can usually go ask for deferred adjudication, and they'll say, okay, don't get a ticket for 2 years. We'll expunge this from your record, pay a fine, pay court costs, and we'll expunge this from your record in 2 years when you haven't had another ticket. That's essentially what they just did for Ken Paxton. Gave him a little bit of community service, a little bit of a slap on the head and fine to cover some of the state's costs on the special counsel, and cut him loose. Cut him loose. That's how corrupt my state is. And what I want you to take away from this is I want you to think about Robert Hur. I want you to think about everything that we have seen out of the Department of Justice. I want you to think about everything we've seen out of Texas. Ken Paxton was impeached. He's flagrantly the guy that they accused him of taking bribes from hired his mistress and moved his mistress from San Antonio to Austin so that he could be closer and not have to drive to San Antonio to get his freak on. I mean, just one thing after another, all the corruption. And here in Texas, Republicans are saying out in the open, we're cool with it. We're cool with it. I mean, this is the level of corruption we have in the state. This prosecutor came out and said, literally made an excuse for giving Paxton a pass by saying, well, these cases are usually handled civilly, not criminally. And, there's really never any jail time. So we were very comfortable doing what we did. Yeah, most of the time. You know what an aggravating circumstance would be that would cause you to, pursue criminal charges and jail time? That the guy that committed the crime is the fucking attorney general. That's an aggravating circumstance that would cause you to seek jail time. The shyster piece of crap con artist is the fucking attorney general. He was a congressman when he started committing this crime. Yeah, that's a mitigating factor in those few cases where you pursue criminal charges. Those would be some mitigating factors that would cause you to pursue criminal charges. But no, not here in Texas, man. Not with Republicans. I have told you, we have to purge Republicans out of the DOJ, out of the justice system in general. Everywhere, state to state, every single state, they have no morals, they have no character. This has to end. No more Republicans, judges, no more Republican special counsels, no more Republican prosecutors, none. Christopher Wray needs to be fired as the head of the FBI, and we need to replace Merrick Garland as Attorney General. We do. No more Republicans, no more Republican light. Yes, exactly, Steve McLeod. Enough is enough. Period. And yes, he should be going to jail. Do I think Ken Paxton should have gone to jail for life? No. No, not for what he did. He was pimping some stock. A year, maybe 2, lose your job, and get pulled out of government. Now what is evil Popeye going to do? He got away with it. What is evil Popeye going to do now? He's skated on everything. What is evil Popeye going to do now? What message did you send? I tell you, folks, we Democrats just need to get militant about this. You have to get loud. We have to go on the attack, folks. This next election can't just be a victory. It has to be a rout. It has to be a rout. And let me tell you, it can happen. You know, we just had a special election. Kudos to the boys over at the guys over at Midas Touch. I love those guys. They follow things so closely, and I kudos to them for catching this. We had a special election in Alabama. This is a red district. We're talking about Huntsville, Alabama. This is a red +8 district. They had a special election. The guy the congressman, the state congressman there, retired. And everybody expected the Republican, the guy by the name of Teddy Powell, to just have a cakewalk there. Democrats had some internal polling that showed like a 43-30 with the Democrat leading. But I'll give you some inside baseball on politics. If our internal in the South, states like Texas, Louisiana, Alabama, Mississippi, Georgia, South Carolina, on through Kentucky, if our internal polling doesn't show a +5, historically we lose. So the Democratic +3 polling, they didn't expect to pull this one out. They didn't throw a ton of resources at it. But Maryland Lands, our candidate, she didn't run as Democrat light. She didn't. She ran as a full-throated, proud Democrat that was going to defend abortion rights. It was going to defend in vitro fertilization. There were two of the main subjects that she ran on. How do you think she did, folks? Obviously, she won, or I wouldn't be telling you this story. It wouldn't be much of a story if a red district went red. What do you think she won by? How many points? I love when we play our guessing game. 25 points. She took a red +8 district and won it by 25 points. $25 points, folks. By running as a proud Democrat, standing up for what we believe in. That's what this next election is going to look like. If we can win in the middle of Huntsville, Alabama, in an Alabama state race, we can win anywhere. Just be proud. Stand up for what you believe in. Stand up for people's rights. Keep doing the good job. You know, this is the accident with the Dali hitting the Key Bridge. Just keep showing the difference. Just keep showing the difference. You know, keep showing up. Do the work. And keep pointing the finger at them saying, look at what they're doing. That's almost what I've got for you. I got one more story for you. It's an international story. It's not local, but this is just one that's just really Jair Bolsonaro used to be the president of Brazil. He lost, and he had his own little January 6th riot down there when he lost, and tried to hold on to power, just like Trump did here. But Brazil does things a little different. They immediately started arresting people, and charging people. Didn't take a year, didn't take a year and a half, 2 years later, 3 years later. They immediately started arresting people. Oh, Bolsonaro here originally fled to Florida, where old DeSantis would protect him. But then he went back to Brazil and started agitating again, trying to do a Trump, getting ready for the next election. Well, they charged him. They are going to throw him in jail for being the treasonous, sorry bastard that he is. ET says, before you go, please remind everyone about the solar eclipse on April 8th. Also to hit the like button, get out there and vote. You just did, my friend. You just did. So the reason I have Bolsonaro, this particular picture up is, guess where Bolsonaro is right now today? He's hiding out in the Hungarian embassy. He's on the run. There's a arrest warrant issued for him. He is on the run. And Viktor Orban is hiding him in the Hungarian embassy, where he will have to stay, just like Julian Assange did, until they just can't stand him being there anymore, and they kick him out, and then they'll arrest him. So yeah, you can imagine Jair Bolsonaro sitting around in his wife beater eating a bag of potato chips on the couch in the Hungarian embassy for the next 5 years. Well, that's what I've got for you today, folks. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope you enjoyed the show. Please hit the thumbs up button. Please hit the subscribe button and share this on your social media where you can. Hit that share button. Throw it out there. People need to hear this stuff. There's way too much nastiness coming out of the right wing. I have to tell you, it's not hyperbole when I said it made me physically ill prepping for this show today. There is so much of that racist, blatantly racist DEI talk out there. I mean, it will just make you physically ill. So let's get the real stuff out there. Let's get the stuff that, and yes, love Midas. I've actually got a new one, a new piece that I just put out for Midas Touch, talking about the Republican Party and the insanity that it was that Marjorie Taylor Greene filed to vacate the chair again. As much as I would love to see Preacher Johnson go and love, have Schadenfreude over him having troubles, chaos is all they bring. But anyways, I did a take on that for Midas Touch. Just came out 2 days ago. But yeah, I appreciate you folks. I really do. The last thing I'm going to leave you with is this. We are not the same. We're not going to play this game anymore. We're not going to, this is not your country. You racist bastards, it's not your country. It's our country. It's all of our country. We're not going to let you take from us the greatness that is the American people. Brave Americans like Roy Benavidez, brave, the finest among us like Michio Kaku and Neil deGrasse Tyson. And these people are us. They are us. I appreciate you, Michael Thomas. I do. I appreciate it. Thank you. And I'm tired of it. I love my fellow Americans. And I say it all the time. We all do better when we all do better. And there is nothing at all about going into a community that may not know the opportunities that are available. And just letting them know, hey, you know what? You kid, straight A kid, brilliant kid. There are openings at the University of Texas. Come educate yourself. You don't have to pay out-of-state tuition. You can be educated right here at home and do well for us right here at home. Come on. That's all DEI is, folks. And it's a damn good thing. Uncle Fatty says, much love from North Idaho. Check on the recent news. #FactBack. Get a workout today. You rock, Paul. Thanks, man. Does it look like I need a workout that bad? Thank you, my friend. Thank you. But yeah, that's what I want to leave you with, because there's going to be, they're going to be talking about this bridge for months and months and months. And they've already set their arc on what they intend to say and the nastiness. I'm telling you, get out there, do it, fight, And a lot of the fighting is really simple. Check your voter registration. Every state has a process. Check your voter registration. Simple thing, hit the thumbs up button here. Get this out to as many people in the algorithm as possible. Google will do the rest of the work for you if you just hit the thumbs up. Make phone calls. Even if you got a Republican that you know, you're in a red district, make the phone calls anyways. Scare the shit out of them. Because I guarantee you that race in Alabama, there are Republican come to Jesus meetings happening all over the place. And I almost forgot something. That, you know, that race is affecting the Supreme Court right now. See, the Supreme Court just heard the mifepristone case. And they want to ban mifepristone. They want to ban all abortion. They do. But there are a couple of hardcores, you know, with Thomas and Alito. But then you get guys like Gorsuch or Amy Coathanger Barrett, or, you know, they're political. They're windsocks, and they can read the writing on the wall. And let me tell you, Gorsuch yesterday, his questioning was not sounding like he is going to support a mifepristone ban. Neil Gorsuch came out yesterday and said, this sounds to me like a local issue. This sounds to me like you're taking a local beef with a doctor, because if you don't know what the mifepristone case was, a bunch of doctors that were anti-abortion saying, if somebody came into my hospital that took mifepristone, I would be expected to treat them if they had a medical crisis. And I don't agree with that. You can't make me do that. And the government's attorneys are saying, nobody made you. That's a choice. You choose to work in an emergency room, that means you treat emergencies, no matter what the emergency is. And in your private practice, nobody makes you take anybody. What you're asking for, and Neil Gorsuch said this, he said, what you're asking for is saying, you don't want to have to treat anybody that's taking mifepristone, so you want us to make it so nobody ever has to treat anybody that's taking mifepristone. And that is not an acceptable remedy. So, yeah, that's what happened with that case. I almost forgot it. Thanks for sticking with me. I love you, folks. This is Old Texas Paul out. This is what I had for you today. Get at it, man. Get at it. Get militant. Let's do this. Let's do this. Enjoy some Texas cities at night.